I will turn on,
Pat, who are the five
hold on,
members?
I'm still doing things. I'm turning on AI Companion. It will give us kind of a probably an incorrect recap of the meeting. So that is on. And it is 6:36 p.m. We have determined there's a quorum. We have, I'll let the people introduce themselves and see how it works here. So why don't we start with Joe and go right across here?
Hello, my name is Joe Phillips, part of the Sierra Club Angeles chapter.
Craig Stewart, California Native Plant Society.
Pat Bates, San Fernando Valley Audubon Society.
Glenn Bailey, representative of the Encino Neighborhood Council, but I'm also an alternate for the Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains, which is what I'll be doing. So we have quorum right now.
Okay. And
Erin Vieira with Friends of the Los Angeles River.
thank you. So moving through the agenda, number 2 is minutes of. Oh, I'm sorry. And we have a guest. We have Brian. Yeah.
And I'm here from Recreation and Parks.
Thank you. And I will just state who is here logged in. We have the guests are Muriel Houghton, Diane Rosen, Melanie Winter, John Rishi, Army Corps of Engineers, Lori Kelson, Rosie Evitisian, I hope I didn't murder that, Brent, Bill Neal, Barbara Heidemann, Hannah Wayland, and that is all I see. So that is who is in attendance right now. For the, let me see. I did have a couple corrections to the minutes that people emailed to me. I believe that we had one person in attendance I did not note. And if I can find my purse, I stuck it in there. Well, I think it was, oh, it's the young man from one of the neighborhood councils that comes to us.
Lionel.
Lionel Morris. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Teresa Brady has just joined us. Teresa is on the board representing San Fernando Valley Sierra Club. And she is live in attendance here. So we will revise the minutes to reflect that Lionel Morris was in attendance. I know. Okay. That said, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes of the November 19th, 2024 meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Greg. And okay, we're just taking a vote. Do we have anyone objecting to approval of the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes are approved. Just joining us in person. Are Narit Katz? I am spacing tonight. And Dan Cooper, I am so sorry. You know, this is the first time we've used the Sowell conference. Yeah, it, drum roll, okay. thank you. So they are in attendance at this point, and I also joining us is Kathy Schreiner from Van Nuys Neighborhood Council. So we're going to move ahead. Do we have comments?
So, sorry, just for that last vote. Just for the purpose of the minutes.
Yeah,
So we were doing the vote when Dan walked in,
yeah.
so I voted. But now Dan's here
He has superseded you.
for the minutes.
You have
so-
been superseded.
Hope you enjoyed that.
He was on a total power trip here.
So anyway, so the minute, I know it's been complicated, that just, it'll have to reference that I'm wearing now the other.
This poor lady is trying to do the minutes. So she's,
I will be, yeah.
Okay,
okay,
okay.
we'll
okay.
deal with it. Thank you. Do we have comments from the public on non-agenda items within our subject matter jurisdiction? If you do have comments, kindly raise your hand, and this would be for non-agenda items. And I am looking for hands raised. I'm not seeing them.
Oh, it's not raised. Take it down.
I don't know what that was. That was Diane. Anyhow, I don't think anyone's got their hand raised for non-agenda items, so we're going to move ahead to reports from governmental agencies. And let's see, Brian is here right now. So Brian is with the LA Department of Recreation and Parks.
Thank you, Pat. Pat, well, it just, I can't comment too much on the already known fact of fires. But just for the, members to, I don't know if you guys already know, we started installing bollards out there on Burbank, right off of Woodley.
Right.
And we're, I know it's a long shot, but we're just trying our best to, keep darn trucks from dumping. And as you can see, we lost some of the support from our sanitation buddies because they're over the hill,
Right.
respectfully, and so we're working, I asked Wayne Wheel, and we're working on trying to remove the trash. Believe us.
Thank you.
We are trying,
Mhm.
and we'll be trying to get. Yes.
There's a lot of trash to be removed right now.
That's a lot. That's part of the problem.
You guys had any luck in finding out who's doing it, or are they just middle of the night dumping and disappearing?
Exactly, middle of the night. Early in the morning. You name it, it could be. And it's so hard to get these, and that's my report, Pat.
Thank you. And I think the owl has quit doing whatever the owl was doing, so I'll see if I can get it going again. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Okay. Yeah, someone said they lost their video. I don't know why it quit working. Anyhow,
That's Brian, the question.
huh,
That's Brian.
of course, we have a question for Brian.
So this may not be part of what you're doing, but in city council earlier this month, there was motions regarding recreation and parks, closure of parks during red flag weather. I believe it was referencing high fire severity zones. I don't think Sepulveda Basin is technically in. But if you hear anything well, it's a motion, so it's not law yet, but if you hear anything that might affect the Sepulveda Basin through your recreation and parks channels, I guess I would just that would happen, but if you do, I just wanted to put that out there for you and everything.
And it has calmed down quite a bit, so far, and, it has calmed down.
This is a motion for going forward,
Mhm.
Going forward.
for future, forever, if it's adopted forever, for the parks that meet that criteria.
We'll agree. We'll let you know. We'll let the.
That's their working again, Pat.
Hmm?
I moved the plug. I think I was the one who messed up the owl. Is it working again?
Let's see if the owl's working. It's already plugged in. No,
Does it have like an on and off? I wasn't sure if this button on the back or.
I don't know why it went off all by itself. I mean, nobody,
If I can butt in, I'm having a lot of trouble hearing. I'm not seeing anybody who's in the room actually, and I find myself unable to send a chat.
Okay, now it's on.
Something's goofy.
Looking at me. Maybe. it was-
okay, wait a minute. It just seems to have
the
gone
eyes
on.
are, like, making-
I really don't know what could have.
Check on the mic right here. This guy, click the arrow. Arrow next to it. Yourself unmuted, now hit the arrow.
See, it's not seeing it.
Talk audio.
It's Diane. And I can't hear anything hardly.
Was it really?
Okay, let's see.
Does it show up under video?
It's not showing up under. Meeting owl camera.
Okay.
We just selected it for video. Turn it on.
The eyes are on and looking at me.
Okay, it's on.
Okay.
Apologies. I do not know why it went off.
Here it is.
I tested this thing over and over the weekend. Anyhow. Diane, can you hear us now? I bet she can.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving ahead, shall we go to Rosie next and then John? How would that work?
That works for me. I'll wait to give my other updates that are on the agenda items. But as for whatever's not on the agenda, I do have an update for the Sepulveda Basin homeless count. It's gonna be on February 18th. And we had a meeting earlier today in regards to it, just going over some details. But if the weather permits, it should be that day. And then after we have the homeless count, we'll be able to have more accurate numbers of the population within the different zones in the basin. And we'll use all of that information with the different jurisdictions in the basin to kind of discuss any long-term solutions we can think of when it comes to getting all of those folks housed or cleaning those areas. So that's ultimately my only update up until the agenda items, and then I can talk a little bit more about that when it's my turn.
Okay, thank you. And I will note if anyone does want to join us for the homeless count the morning of February 18th. I will be there covering a portion. I have a couple other people. We may need another volunteer or two. So we'll just keep that on your agenda. And do I have any questions for Rosie right now? She is going to cover other matters later. And hearing none, John,
Good evening, Pat, committee members and guests. John Rishi, biologist with the Army Corps of Engineers. So last Thursday, we began vegetation management of the South Reserve. And that's going it's going slow. We just have one individual doing the mowing, but Hannah and I were out there. We flagged all the native plants to avoid. And so they've been really good at working around those flag plants and, reducing the fuel levels, but still helping to restore the habitat and keep those native plants that are important for the wildlife. The channel work, the in-channel work was postponed because of the rain. And they're planning to start that mobilization on Thursday, if everything goes as planned. And then for the Sepulveda Basin Master Plan and also the Hanson Dam Master Plan, the 45-day public scoping period is still on schedule to begin on February 10th for both master plans. We were planning to mail or to send out the notice of intent for the public scoping period today, but it was suspended for 10 days. The new administration just suspended all social media and website postings so they could kind of get a handle on what was going on. And so we plan to send those notices out at the end of that 10-day period, which would be February 4th. And that's all I have right now, subject to your questions.
right. So, Muriel has a question.
Yes.
Actually, not on this, but I'd like to ask you to stay long enough for the discussion about the recent plantings in the amphitheater lawn.
Sure. Yes, I'll plan to stay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John, who is the contractor for the river channel?
It's BJD Services is our channel maintenance contractor.
Okay. And the last day for the comment period, will that be March 25th?
That's what we have is March 25th, but I think because February, we didn't realize February is a short month. So I think we're allowing a couple of days
Good.
past that, even though all the public notices say March 25th. So really, it's extended to March 27th.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Next regular meeting will be March 25th, so we want to make sure we can address that. Do we have any further questions? Okay, hearing none. We've got a couple comment things from Rosie coming up. Glenn had asked me about the Basin fires, and basically about 50% of our designated wildlife areas have been burned. There's been over 220 fires in the basin since June 24. There's been several significant fires, a 75-acre by the model airplane park, a 30, a 20, it adds up, in addition to multiple just really incredible arson fires in the wildlife area by our wildlife lake. So I just put a little thing in about that, and now I'd like to turn it over to Rosie for item 5B, an update on the Sepulveda Basin Fire Working Group.
Sorry, I was having a difficult time unmuting myself. So as for the working group, we are still meeting within the the different departments. The last update that I have from the meeting was with LAFD in particular, and they do want to start brush clearance before the nesting season. So I've been working on getting approval with LA Sanitation, for example, and the other agencies, because there has to be like a MOU and a letter approval within the departments in order to start the brush clearance and to be able to do it. So that's what we've been working on, to schedule just separating again the basin by zones and doing brush clearance to try and have it as under control as possible. So that's been the main discussion within the within the working group. And once we have the homeless count, then we'll be able to kind of figure out which areas need more resources and how we can go about housing those individuals. On another note, I am also working with the mayor's office to try and really advocate for like an inside safe operation. I understand that it's going to be very difficult to do it for all parts of the basin. So if we can possibly do different zones within the basin just to house as many as we can, then I'm pushing for that as well. So it's all been moving, but slowly, of course, given the situation in the Palisades too right now, but I'm trying to do as much as we can, really.
Something I'll bring up with this, so I've actually had the good fortune of being connected with forestry, and in talking to forestry following the winds.
Can you talk into the microphone?
Yeah, Miguel's catching it.
Yeah.
So I've had the good fortune of being able to talk to the fellow from forestry, and they have informed me that they have absolute gobs of mulch and compost after the winds from all the down stuff. We've talked a little bit about getting it in some spaces. I don't know if this is a resource for the fire areas, so areas that are cleared, because once it's cleared, the problem is going to continue as soon as the invasives come back, unless we do something to suppress them. And the thinking is, if I mean, he's offered like 10 trucks of like 80 yards of mulch, like a field. Our challenge is that even if we took years of it, there's no way volunteers could spread it all. So we would need help. And I was going to bring this up later, but given the two groups that are on, would that be a possibility? And is there any sort of resource that we could borrow either from parks, which I know is really strapped, or with Army Corps to maybe get us a skip loader or a Bobcat to just go out and push these things flat if they can get them dropped in areas? Forestry is real concerned about homeless lighting these piles on fire, and I'll say after the last winds, when we spread the last of what we had, it was dry to the middle.
Yeah, I would be really cautious about working with mulch. It's not like a boon. It's people are always trying to get rid of it. So it is a waste product. So use it sparingly and kind of smartly. But yeah, I only know this because my son is obsessed with filming fire trucks, but he was in Altadena on Wednesday getting footage, and he was seeing mulch catch on fire with members extremely readily and shockingly before anything else in the yard was getting lit. So
yeah, it's fun. And so I mean, our thinking was if we got it out there, then we could have a water tender wet it. And at least try
but then it'll dry again.
Yeah.
So, use it, if it's placed around a plant that you've planted, but then that's not a skip loader job.
Yeah, it's the volume. All right, the problem is quantity.
Yeah, so be careful with it, I guess. And I think it'll always be available if you know where to find it.
Oh, yeah.
So don't think of this as like the one shot.
Two birds, one stone.
Were you basically insinuating that the mulch kind of self-incinerates?
No, it just catches
embers. Does it need
embers.
some help or?
Yeah, it catches embers, but it dries quickly. And think of it like kindling, like you're lighting a campfire. You need little pieces, thin pieces, and so that's what it is.
Yeah, and when we
Especially
have.
like the eucalyptus, the shredded kind, but not the wood chunks so much, right?
So it was so dry. I mean, there was no moisture in the middle of the pile.
Yeah, it dries out quick.
Yeah.
All right, I see the park rangers have a hand up. Can you guys unmute?
Good evening, Pat. Good evening, everyone. So, it's Park Ranger Dio Campo, and I'm here with my partner Ranger Sharp and our supervisor Sergeant Dato. So we started
I don't know if they
2025.
can unmute or they didn't really want their hand up.
Oh, you not hear us?
Can you not hear us?
Let me go to Rosie while we're waiting for them to figure it out.
I can hear them. They're not.
Rosie, your hand's up.
Oh.
Yeah, I could actually hear the park rangers as well.
I can hear them.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm having, it's Diane. I'm having trouble hearing.
Something, huh? They're very faintly through the owl.
Does the owl need to be turned up? Is it a
Let
speaker?
me try turning it up more.
Has arrows like for volume here.
We can try to talk louder. Is this more helpful for anyone?
All right, now we're good.
That was Marie.
Can y'all hear us?
That wasn't the device, that was Marie.
Can you hear me now?
You guys can hear us now, or?
Yeah. I
Yes.
can hear you.
Yeah,
We
we
can
can.
hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. So, again, good evening. Park Ranger Dio Campo. I'm here with my partner Ranger Sharp and our supervisor Sergeant Dato. So we started the 2025 deployment for the Rangers up here in the Valley a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And that was right before that kicked in. What I did want to point out, I know you guys mentioned the fires earlier. We did make an arrest that I believe was the arson that I suspect we have good reason to believe this is the same individual who's responsible for a lot of the big arson fires in the Sepulveda Basin wildlife area. The first time I encountered him was actually December 18th, and we were addressing a large encampment close to, I guess, sometimes you guys refer to as like the boat loading dock area. It's been there for a couple of years now. After we sighted that individual, we got back to our vehicle and I saw this guy just walking by, and we had nothing to go with, no reason to detain him, but you know, he just looked a little, he seemed like he was unhoused, and so we were like, okay, maybe he lives in the area. My partner notified me that actually she has dealt with him before, living in the area, but we just never identified him. So I took a picture of him when I got back to the station. Ended up identifying him and realizing, yeah, this is the guy who had been arrested before for arson in Sepulveda Basin back in 2022. He was on formal probation for arson, and he was wanted on a felony warrant for arson. And when we checked our records, I found out that on October 12th, one of our rangers who had responded to a fire at Sepulveda, he was responding from Griffith. He's not familiar with the individuals we dealt with, but he responded to the fire. LAFD was in the middle of putting it out, and I think one of the captains on scene pointed this individual out and said, hey, this guy has been here this whole time right by the fire. He kind of seems unfazed and has an encampment nearby. So this ranger I'm talking about, his name is Ranger Trejo, made contact with the individual, issued him a citation. Unfortunately, at the time, our dispatch they missed the warrant for him. But again, there's just this history of this guy just being in this area where some of these major fires. And I don't think he's one of these individuals who accidentally, produce a fire accidentally when they're trying to stay warm or cook their food. I think this is one of those folks that just starts his fires for
The community.
yeah. So we arrested this individual January 10th. He's still locked up. I checked today. And since then, I mean, we had a few fires here and there, but it doesn't seem like they're the type of fires that we get from the arsons who started for pleasure or other reasons like that. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
Well, I'm glad he's locked up.
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
I'm glad he's locked up.
Yes, and his encampment has been removed. Yeah, well, I mean, I'll keep you guys up to date when he comes out, but hopefully we can get some kind of stay away order.
It took a long time to get that encampment removed. I mean, it's visible on Google Earth, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been submitting the request too.
Yes, I believe they just did the service request a couple of days ago.
Yes, yeah, it's within this past week, they
Within the past
adjusted.
week.
We just need to follow up.
Yeah. Yeah. But we know the individual, and if he continues, at least we know who he is. We have the hardest time trying to find him because usually he takes off during the day and he only comes back in the evening. And we got to see that one day, just
Yeah.
on December 18th.
Thank you very much. Rosie?
Yes, I was actually raising my hand in regards to the mulch. But before I get into that, I do want to give a shout out to the park rangers. We've been in communication a lot, and we get updates. I mean, almost weekly on everything that they're able to do. So I just wanted to say thank you. We know how hard you work, and it definitely does not go unnoticed. I mean, I think we're all pretty much on the same page in terms of knowing how difficult and nuanced the situation is. So I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you. And then as for the mulch, what I was thinking, just because this was something that came up a lot when we were in discussion about the medians along Burbank that would go through Woodley. I know I talked to street services when they were cutting down all the brush if mulch was an option. And I believe at the time they didn't have enough or it wasn't an option. So if there is like a large volume of it, would it be a good idea to have the mulch spread around the median since they are already all cut down, and then maybe could just be a matter of watering it? I don't know. I don't know the science behind it or the efficiency, but since it came up, I did want to bring that out or bring that up better yet.
I defer to the scientists.
I mean, I'm not really like bullish on mulch, so I think that if there's a reason to put it on the median, and it'll be maintained, one of the things is if it's flammable, and it is, probably don't want it in the middle of roads, where embers can get it and then hit a car, because cars are really flammable. Also, it blows away really easily, and so medians don't have a lot of guardrails to like keep stuff on the median. So that's why I'd be reluctant to put on a median. A lot of people think it's good for weed control, but our weeds are really able to push through mulch pretty easily. So I think it also will blow into the street and cause like bike hazards. And I just think it'll probably cause more trouble than it's worth. And it's just telling them people are always trying to give away mulch, and mulch should really be disposed of properly, like in a landfill, where it belongs, and not sort of cast around willy-nilly, or used specifically for like a restoration project. So I would try to resist the urge to think of like creative places to put mulch, I guess is what I'm saying. Though I understand the sentiment.
I think the flip side of that is just to make sure that there's resources to come back the next year and take the bases that have grown.
Clean the
6 feet,
medians.
yeah, to
Yeah, I
redo
think
the
there
work.
needs to be maintenance for the median,
Yeah.
and I do agree with Dan that mulch is not a great solution there. That doesn't mean it couldn't have other applications elsewhere in the
Yeah.
basin. And it does have plenty of applications in gardens, but yeah, I do echo those concerns about it getting out into the
Widespread,
street.
yeah.
Migrating.
Totally agree.
Migrating mulch, exactly.
Just quickly, could the park rangers put their 3 names in the chat for the minutes? Oh, they did already? Thank you. Muriel, were you done, Rosie? I think she was.
Quick question for Rosie. I didn't quite get where the brush clearance you're trying to get done is located. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry. So the brush clearance ultimately would be led by the fire department. We want to start with, there's actually no specific zone as to where we want to start. We want to do it all throughout. But hold on, I'm actually mistaken. I I don't have the map in front of me right now, but I know it was an area close to, I want to say, the wildlife reserve. And when we talked about this, this was towards the end of December. But that's where they wanted to start. Now, the difficulty was getting the approval from the various jurisdictions in order to start. So we were working on an MOU to get the process started, so then we don't run into any paperwork or like any legal related issues, just because it's going to involve multiple jurisdictions.
Thank you.
See, John has his hand up also. Were you done, Miriam?
Oh, well, my other question is for the Rangers.
Okay.
I just wanted to tag on to what Rosie was saying. I was at the meeting with LA Fire Department, and they had talked about the area south of Burbank, between Encino Creek and Burbank, as an area to do brush clearance. And then also they had mentioned doing Haskell Creek. Also, that was south of Burbank. But we were still waiting for them to come back, and then the fire started. So I'm not sure what happened with that. But I also wanted to mention that we've been working with the Council for Watershed Health, and they've been doing targeted rundo removal. And they were in Encino Creek, and they removed a bunch, and then they went into the LA River main stem above the dam. And they removed over 6 acres of arundo in those areas.
That's who my friends saw working in the river.
Should I address my question to the Rangers at this point? We have noticed of late a lot of little fires that have scorched monuments, informational signs, and things like that. In other words, permanent rock-faced rock monuments of various kinds. And on Saturday, before heading down with 2 colleagues to lead walks for the volunteers working with CNPS and Polar, we discovered up at the top of the amphitheater at the picnic tables, a fellow with a small tank of propane. And very frankly, we felt he was very suspicious. But, suspicious is suspicious. What should we have done? And do you know about him? I can describe, I'm not good at describing, but I can give you a general description. And I honestly think he is likely to be responsible for some of these small, but there are many of them, fires that we've been seeing lately.
Hi, Muriel, this is Sergeant Dato. So suspicious is just that. And you're welcome to give us a call if you see something suspicious, and we'll check it out. Many times we might see the same thing, and if he's not committing a crime, there's nothing we can do, but we can always talk to folks. Sometimes just them knowing that we know they're there and we're paying attention can help. Other times, unfortunately, we got to wait till we catch them in the act to get something. But and the other instance too is many times, even though like with the arsonist, we might not catch them in the act for arson, we find out they have a warrant, so we have a reason to take them to jail and remove them from the situation anyway. So if you find something suspicious, the word I was looking for, but by all means, give us a call and we'll check it out. And we may have something, we may not, but we can always talk to folks, and that can help too. Just they realize that they're somebody's paying attention.
So call you at dispatch?
Yes, if you give our dispatch a call.
Yeah. Thank you.
Minutes, the number to call, can they just name off?
Absolutely. Do you want me to put it in the chat or just tell you?
Can you do both?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The number is 323-644-6661. And that's the Ranger dispatch for the entire city. And then they give us a call on the radio.
Put it in your contacts.
I'll put it in the chat as well.
Okay. If we're ready to move along, surveillance cameras, we'd love to hear. Are we going to get surveillance in the basin?
Can I take over?
You can, it's all yours.
Okay, as for the surveillance, I did hear from my deputy chief of staff that that it was approved, and which pretty much means that we are gonna go on ahead with the surveillance system. Now, when I met with the rangers at Griffith Park months ago, sorry, give me 1 second. I'm sorry about that. When I met with the Rangers months ago at the Griffith Park Station, they talked about how they need a space with pretty much like a large visibility, and they were thinking of the intersection that's actually closest to Sepulveda in Burbank. We haven't had discussion as far as where to input it since then, so I do expect a meeting to kind of discuss where it would make sense, because this camera system can zoom in at incredible I'm sorry, I can't find the word, but it can zoom into incredible lengths. And I think it would also help a lot when it comes to identifying who's doing the illegal dumping on Burbank and Woodley, because then we can zoom in and see license plates, and then we can use those license plates to then have a WP department do an investigation, and then at that point start issuing citations. So yeah, I mean, the main update is that it's been approved, the money will be allocated. I'm gonna be working on setting up a meeting to discuss next steps directly with the company that's gonna be doing the installations, but that's like the only thing that I've heard from my office in terms of like what's next. So I don't know the process of how the money gets funded and all of that. I'm gonna find out.
Do you know the total cost of it?
It was about 40,000, a little bit give or take.
Ready. Glenn wonders how many cameras?
So it's one camera, but like I said, it would pretty much cover the entire basin.
Is it monitored by AI or individuals, or how's that work?
No, it's monitored by the park rangers actually at the ranger station in Griffith Park. So so they have access to it and be able to see it. It's also really good for a fire detection. So so yeah, I mean, there's multiple great uses for it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Do we have any questions on that?
So I can understand. So I heard Burbank's Sepulveda event, you mean like the 403, the highest point there at the, okay.
I would think, yeah. Okay, so moving along, item 6, trees on the lawn. Muriel wanted me to put this on. Brian, what do you know about the trees that have been planted?
Well, it's part of our effort to repopulate the trees that we've lost so many. And we've got them going along Lake Balboa. Okay, a lot, not just a handful. And the Woodley, right in front of the wildlife. Also, some of our parks in the inside of the cities too are getting scattered tree plantings. Yes, and these are
from the Hollywood Beautification Team, HBT. And they've been a wonderful supportive group for us. I just gotta say, they plant all those trees.
What was CAL FIRE? The email said it was CAL FIRE.
Grant is from CAL FIRE
And then the grant goes from CAL FIRE to Hollywood Beautification.
to try to get it in the ground. Yeah.
Is that like Hollywood, like, I mean, why are they planning in Encino if it's in Hollywood, I guess is my question. Why would Hollywood Beautification be coming up here to plant trees?
Yeah, and I may be misquoting their name of their
Oh,
group.
Was it LA beautification? It might have been,
Hollywood LA Beautification.
yeah.
Yeah, Hollywood LA.
They do projects all over the
All
city.
over the city.
Okay, cool.
Okay, Muriel has her hand up.
Okay, I have concerns about this, and I'm of two minds about it. It should be absolutely beautiful. On the other hand, I am delighted to see more Western sycamores than Leon Boroditsky, the head forester, had mentioned planting there at this time. We're talking about a little less than 2 years ago. So, I mean, it's wonderful to have those trees there. The other trees, I have some concerns about. Philosophically, I have a problem with the two kinds of oaks that were planted, especially the cork oaks, which are native to Europe, not to anywhere close to here. We know they do beautifully well in the amphitheater lawn because we have two of them that are doing very well. They look beautiful. They do attract birds and so on, but they are very much an exotic. We have two minds. The other oak that was planted is called a rugosa oak or netleaf. And they are native to Western, I looked this up. I don't know this I wouldn't know it otherwise. From Western Texas through New Mexico, southern Arizona, down throughout Mexico and into Guatemala even. They're very wide. They are likely to do very well, I think. They are native to an area not far from here. They are not locally native and they're not a California native. This is going against the master plan with both kinds of oaks. I really would like to hear what other people have to say about this. The final tree that was planted, and almost half of the 40 trees that were planted, I did not count anything, so it's a guess, are Torrey pines. They're beautiful. And they will certainly keep cars from driving wildly on the lawn. But they're supposed to be, from what I've learned, very intolerant of fire. They die kind of like if fire comes near them, they die. And so I don't think they are going to be permanent. I have no objection to them, and they're a California native, and I gather they're excellent for wildlife. So anyway, I'm throwing this open because I think I'd like to hear what the other committee members think. Thank you.
Other committee members?
Well, this is Dan, is there like a unified plan for what should and shouldn't be planted or done with different zones in the wildlife area? Or is it just sort of like, do your best, like try to plant natives if you're gonna plant anything? Like, what is like, why don't we plant like 1,000 trees on that lawn? Like, is there a plan for doing stuff?
So the best as I know is from as CMPS goes, and I may be misspeaking, I can ask Steve Hartman about it, but my understanding was that outside space was still part of the wildlife reserve, but used as lawn space.
Yeah.
We saw the trees, we were there the day that they put in some of them. And we were busy putting in stuff somewhere else, so I didn't really pay it a lot of attention. And again, that's landscape space, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, I don't, to me, it's like, putting up like a shade structure on the lawn, right? It's like, it's sort of neutral, like, they're not invasive trees, but like, do we use the lawn? Does the lawn have ecological value as like foraging area for birds or ground squirrels or whatever? Or is the idea that all the lawns in the wildlife area or Sepulveda, we should just start planting trees in them? And to me, I think that it probably would be, this is why we do management plans. We just have zones of like vision plans or what it's gonna look like. It gets kind of granular, but I would say like as a precedent, if we're the steering committee, I guess it might be nice to get heads up when someone's gonna be planting stuff. Just like Greg, you show up to these meetings every month and talk about what you.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, we try to like capture everyone's viewpoints and all the stakeholders in the room. So it is a little jarring when someone just parachutes in, plants a bunch of trees.
Was Parks involved in it? Cause they had some big apparatus. It wasn't like a couple of volunteers with a couple of buckets and shovels. I mean, it was a truck with an auger that was out there. I mean, we heard it, it sounded, ground shaking, putting it in. So, but I mean, it was all news to us. We sort of showed up, oh, there's trees here now.
This is, forestry, our forestry.
Yeah, I think it would have been great if they gave a heads up to the steering committee, because I was surprised. I got out there, they wanted me to start helping them. And I mean, that's wonderful, but I mean, I think this had to have been approved by Rec and Parks, and I think it was kind of negligent of them not to shoot an email off to the steering committee that we're, hey, there's a whole bunch of trees going to be planted.
Or we should have forestry represented on our steering committee.
Well, that would be lovely.
If they're gonna be like, no, I don't say meddling, but if they're gonna be like doing work in the wildlife area, these departments change their focus every few years. So maybe 20 years ago, forestry wasn't doing stuff and it was all Rec and Parks. But like realities kind of change. So I don't know how aggressive forestry is these days. It seems like they're fairly aggressive in just trying to put trees everywhere they can around the city. That's just been my impression, but I don't know.
Well, I will make a point of inviting the new guy from forestry, because I know the fellow that we dealt with for quite a few years is retired.
Okay.
And there's a new guy, and I think I was remiss in not getting him to at least try to come to this.
I thought forestry was part of recreation.
It's Rec and Parks.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, it's a division of Rec.
Yeah, it's a division of Rec and Parks.
There's two different
Who
forestries.
retired? Tell me Leon didn't.
Muriel will tell us who retired.
Okay, if I can give a little more background, and I would like to hear from John Rishi on this too. It was Steve Dunlap was the chief forester, and Leon Boroditsky was something like the deputy chief forester. And clearly, based on what I had heard from others and from talking to him, he was kind of the philosopher of the forestry division. And I'm sure he gave a great deal of thought to this. And based on when I thought I was just going to meet with him to discuss where they would plant for sycamore trees to replace some other trees that died in the amphitheater lawn, this is the big picture I got. They really want to do the right thing. Leon wants to plant things that will last for the centuries, not just have, just a few years. With that, they, I'm not sure how to say it, consider the wildlife reserve, the natural part, to be totally run by the steering committee.
I see.
And like so many people, they consider the amphitheater and the lawn to not be part of the wildlife reserve. I consider it to be, but of dual usage. I believe that is the main intent, but honestly, it's very unclear. Okay, so that's part of the picture. And I did invite them to, Leon, this is almost 2 years ago, to discuss with the committee if they did want to help plant stuff within the reserve to work with the committee. Anyway, so we have kind of a bifurcated situation. The other,
Can you clarify who retired? Did Steve leave or did Leon retire? 'Cause
Steve Dunlop,
Okay,
he
but
retired.
Leon's still here, right? Because we've worked.
okay,
so close-
Leon is now the chief forester. He was the
Oh.
deputy before. Steve
Fantastic.
retired. Okay,
Great.
the other thing that I want to point out, and John Rishi can confirm or correct me, is that the lease, the master plan for the basin, the old one that's about to be updated, says that all plantings where possible in the Sepulveda Basin should be California native plants. So, and clearly there are exceptions made for turf grasses for people to play on and for the cherry trees, you know, like Balboa and things of a major cultural purpose to be otherwise. So my understanding is that this is really in contradiction to the master plan, to have these out of area oaks, especially the cork oaks.
So, yeah, Muriel, yeah, this is John, and you're absolutely right. The master plan does, it says exactly what you say, that we should be planting native plants wherever, possible. And I know like LA County, when it comes to Santa Fe Dam and Whittier Narrows, they always run their list of trees that they'd like to plant through us. And sometimes we make exceptions, when they're going for a certain look within, the ornamental lawn areas. But we want to make sure that they're not planting invasive trees. So, if they want to plant, for example, like a Chinese pistache, it has to be a tree that can't reproduce, like a sterile tree. But generally, the master plan, and it's guided by an executive order that, on federal lands, we should be planting vegetation trees that are native to California. So I concur with that. And, have we had a say in this species, I would be recommending the native trees.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think Leon has been incredibly supportive in many ways of all of these efforts. He's been trained in the wildlife, tree maintenance and, been open to maintaining some level of snags for cavities, et cetera. So I'm sure we can have this conversation and address this with them without.
So to John's comment, section 6.2.3, recommended areas applicable to environmental sensitive, approximately 300 acres. Classification, environmental sensitive classification. This includes Sepulveda Basin wildlife area. And I know we've had the discussion about the amphitheater and all that, and I realize that's, a lawn area is not the same as the other side of the fence, but that's what it says in the master plan. And that's why it's important, I think, for folks, even with the best of intentions. We've had this for years and years. I mean, I remember 30 years ago, the tree people came in and planted all sorts of non-native trees when they were not focused on native trees. And so that's why it is important that there be communication. And certainly not just this committee, but the Army Corps needs to be looped in, because it's their master plan that we gave input to, I mean, the public gave input to. that we just wanna make sure, and if there's things that are shades of gray, because this is not the. Because of, you know, it's a manicured lawn, then let's have a conversation about that. But when groups, I don't know where this group comes from, but it's not a group I've heard of before. So it doesn't sound like it's local like here. And it doesn't even mean that groups that are even closer local. And by the way, my comment is about the tree people is 40 years ago. I think they're a great group doing great things these days, but they did a lot of non-native planting back in the day that we're still dealing with one start. That's all I'm gonna say.
So is the question then, who approved the trees and who approved them for there? Or, so I guess what would our path forward be for this? So the cat's already outside, and what, the cat's already out
The
back.
trees are in the ground.
Trees are in the ground.
Closing the barn door.
Yeah, I think one of my big. One more, come on.
At least they're not,
No, it's been wrong.
at least they're not Shayna Lash.
Yeah.
I think a big worry of mine is that if they're gonna make it, so with the constant sprinkle, the constant broken pipes, the boggy ground, things like that, and then the cars that are on top of it. So, you know, even like on Sunday afternoon going, I think I counted 3 cars out on the lawn. So, you know, how long are these trees gonna make it, you know, on a grass derby night?
What's
So-
the trees that look?
Well-
What's the trees that are in the front? I haven't been over there.
The types of trees,
What
No, no,
size?
what size?
Okay, come on.
They're pretty big. They
They're big.
probably were, they
24
probably
gallon.
came out of boxes, so
Oh,
yeah.
they were, yeah.
I think they were boxed 24
Yeah.
gallon
Are they
trees.
kind of in the middle? So they're.
They're
The
all over the
edges?
place. There's some that follow the path, so the path around the amphitheater in, there's some that edge that. They seem to be, I don't think that they were put in the plan, but they seem to be in like, you know, where the auger could go. They put a hole,
Oh,
put a
yeah.
hole. So there is some arrangement to them, but it's more or less random.
Tell me again, what species there?
Just from what they said, it's a cork oak, and did you say a Torrey pine and then a netty oak?
Nut leaf or rugosa oak, which I
Yeah,
frankly
there's some-
think, and the Torrey pines, yeah. So,
and
I
some
mean,
sycamores.
I'm
The sycamores
delighted
on-
about the sycamores. I mean, and I agree with Leon that it's not wise to have a monoculture because we keep having things that do particular species in. It's great, you know, you do better to have a mixture of things. Also, seasonality varies between them. I'm not concerned about the Torrey oaks. They are a California native. I don't think they were a wise choice. And then there's the 2 non-native oak species that, I mean, the one that is from Mexico and into the Southwest,
Put it in like.
maybe it's a good idea to stretch. I know that Leon wanted to get island oaks, which are native to at least one of the islands locally, but they weren't available. A lot of thought was given to it, but we should have been consulted. And I'm not sure that I honestly don't know, but at a minimum, we need to have better coordination between the committee and the forestry department, who mean well.
I think they do mean well. I think in this case, it was, as you said, a difference of understanding in terms of the border. You know, I think had it been within the fence, they would have consulted us and they may think of that portion as not part of the wildlife reserve. If we have any, you know, formal designation that it is, and we need to be consulted in that area, then I think we should sit down with them and all we can do is move forward. If they're already in the ground, I don't think there's anything we can do for this one. And it is already a mixed tree park area, and I'm sure those trees will get used by lots of wildlife. And so I think all there is to do at this point is to meet with forestry and have some clarity and understanding of which areas we need to be consulted about, and, you know.
I think that,
And if we want them to consider trees differently, maybe we need to develop a palette that we find acceptable in the areas bordering the wildlife reserve.
If they didn't
Yeah.
connect with the committee, you would think they would have at least connected with Rec and Parks.
But they're
And
part of
even
Rec
though
and
they're
Park. They
part
are
of
Rec and Park. They are Rec and
But
Park.
then they would have connected potentially with somebody within the Sepulveda Basin. Whoever.
Well, they are within the, so Leon and his team maintain all of the trees throughout the
But they would
Sepulveda
have
Basin, so.
contacted you or somebody, you would think.
Well, they're different divisions of Rec and Park. So Leon's group has the jurisdiction to care for the trees in the Sepulveda Basin. And they do work with us on many things, including like when we had that tree, you know, when there's wildlife issues, for example, or, you know, where the nests are for the red-tailed hawks and all these sorts of things. And they have worked with this committee very much about the trees post-fire and how we dealt with that and whether the cottonwoods came down. So there was communication with that. So again, I think this is likely a misunderstanding in terms of the purview of this committee for that amphitheater area and the grass area. And I think if we feel we have jurisdiction over that area, then we may just need to sit down with them and clarify that for the future.
Would
And,
it make-
you know, work more closely with them.
Would it make any sense to reach out to this group to maybe sort of educate them on it and let them know that they put ill-appropriate trees in there?
I
Well,
think
it sounds
that
like
we,
Muriel's already been in conversation with.
well, but that area is part of the reserve. It's clearly defined in the master plan. There's no question.
Okay.
And they should have consulted with us. And, you
Then I
know,
think
my
we should
feeling is
remind
the
them.
trees are in the ground,
Yeah.
but they really moved, if you want
Yeah.
my opinion. And,
Well,
they
then I think,
should have come to us.
I think we should.
And I think we
communicate
need to
that
let them know that.
Yeah, absolutely. If there is clarity in the master plan that that's part of the reserve, then that is the purview of the committee. And then we should remind them of that, like, hey, it's not just within that fence line. It is this whole amphitheater and grass area.
It's defined by the entry road going in and so on, and you can, it's 130 acres, you can measure it
Yeah.
out on Google Earth.
But then to the extent that they are going to plant any more trees, I think it would be helpful for this committee to develop a list of species that we would find acceptable for reserve area. Maybe with like our top priorities, and then if those aren't available at the right size from the nursery, here's what we would find, you know. So developing a palette, I think there's a lot of good knowledge within this committee, and we should be able to do that.
Maybe they just had an abundance of these trees and they just wanted to
Yeah.
get rid of them, potentially.
The other thing is, I believe it's been shared with them, but we can share with them, there's a new sort of native tree list that was developed by CFAC that I think was shared with forestry, but we could.
Yeah, we could just use that and just
Yeah,
pass that along and say, hey. But it sounds like,
Maybe
as
we
you
can
said, they
highlight-
had the right intention, it's just the nursery didn't have the trees they wanted.
right, so
they
they're
had to
sort of
get out the
substituting,
trees.
so that's where I think we need to help them with like a substitute list of,
Yeah.
okay, if you don't have these, go for these, you know, and just work, yeah, I think we should see if they'd be open to sit down with us and I think we should be. Personally, I think we should be gentle in our critique, because I do feel Leon has been working so hard on so many of the
Mhm.
issues we care about, you know, he made sure that a number of his team members went through the like tree care for birds training, you know, he's really trying to be sensitive to all this stuff and participated a lot in vision plan stuff around this, and he's a very good ally, and I think we should just make sure that we care for that relationship and stay in closer touch and make sure, you know.
Yeah, I think that's the only point.
Yeah.
You know,
Marie, what is that CFAC that developed a list?
CFAC is the Community Forest Advisory Committee. It's a body of the city.
Okay.
And I'll send the list to this committee in case some of you don't have it. It was a pretty good list because what's nice about it is it includes tree-like bushes.
Mhm.
So things like elderberry that
sure, it's great.
that can grow into a tree-like structure that are maybe not always on the initial tree list. So yeah, I'll send that out.
Okay, are we done with trees?
Well, I do recall at one point during the master plan process, we had envisioned certain things such as an oak forest, for lack of a better word, on the west side of Haskell Creek. Between Haskell Creek and Woodley and that sort of thing. I don't know how detailed, if we did something for the whole area, or we just had identified a suggested area that we wanted. California Library and the Valley Oak or maybe it was just live oak, I'm not sure, but anyway, so there have been some thought in years past. So I don't know, maybe Miro has some of that, but, it's not like we haven't done anything and we haven't tried to give input on that. But it's not in the plan, like this zone is gonna be the oak zone, to my knowledge.
Should we move ahead?
Yep.
Item 7, maintenance issues. Greg, I think that was from you.
Yeah, so you talked about the illegal dumping and the removal.
Talk about that.
We were wondering with the trash receptacles out in the park, they seem to be walking away with people. The barrels that are out there just keep disappearing, so.
You want more in?
Yeah, we were thinking that we need to replace them, and I'm sure they've been going into the bushes with people to use as something, but yeah. So I wanted to make a note of that. And also I don't know why the cars on the lawn are a huge pet peeve for me, but the barriers along the driveway and the way in, something to keep the cars out. I got a really nice picture of a guy taking a picture of his car in the amphitheater. Really nice looking car. But anyways, what's that?
In the amphitheater?
Yeah, at the bottom. And so, that seems to be an ongoing thing. I think the big concern is just to break the pipes and stuff, knowing how much it costs and whatnot with that. And then we were talking about clear signage to keep off. One thing that we noticed is that people don't know how to use the roundabout in there. And almost watched a header on the left side for some guy trying to go up to the archery range and somebody coming around, and that was an exciting moment. Some kind
Like
of
signs that say yield.
keep right, yeah,
anyone
or
who's
keep
already-
right,
Keep right, yeah,
Yeah.
keep right.
yeah. People wanted some
And then
name.
the
if you're-
roundabout, it should also say yield to anybody
Yeah.
who's already in it.
Anyways, that was.
We've had the issue before about the barriers and the side.
Yeah,
Forever.
He was talking about ballards earlier.
Yeah,
And we
yeah.
talked about getting old telephone poles or old
yeah,
trees to create some sort of stoppage.
yeah.
They move
I
them
mean,
and
we
get
need-
around them.
Yeah, I know, you gotta get a big hunk of a tree
Yeah,
before, just keep the cars off the lawn is pretty easy, it's the big monster trucks and the
yeah,
big SUVs or forerunners and stuff that just climb over a log,
yeah.
like nothing.
I think it's, as you said, it's something we've been talking about, just to resurface it. I don't know if you go back into any
And
meetings.
potentially gets down to a ranger issue as well, the rangers come out and start citing people and there's signage, no parking on the lawn, no entry for
Yeah.
any vehicles, and the rangers start citing people, well, people get the message.
Yeah.
But
Someone needs some mother of all tickets. That's- If the word started getting out that there's a $350 ticket for driving on the lawn,
Oh, I was thinking 1,000.
I go for that, and I'll raise you too.
And some of that money will come to the committee.
Okay, so we'll just keep thinking about that. I think our park rangers have to get back to work. A lot of people keep asking where the $3 million that Brad Sherman gave to the city for a ranger station and community room has gone to. And it turns out, there was a council motion that passed, and it directed the director of Rec and Parks to apply for the $3 million grant. And that's the last we've heard of it. I have gone through the city's checkbook or whatever you call it. The $3 million has not come in. And I don't even know who to ask. It would be a financial person at Rec and Parks that should have made the application. And I may actually do a public records request to try to find out what is going on.
Actually, Pat, I was in a meeting with Jim Kim,
Oh,
and brought up,
what did he say?
well, he didn't have an answer, but, I would say rather than the Public Records Act request, he just
Ask him.
ask him nicely.
Okay, I'll ask him. I will do that. I will ask Jimmy Kim nicely.
Just, you can reference the, Yeah, with the recent. I don't know if it's recent, I think it's November, but, the meeting with the neighborhood council budget advocates.
Mm,
And the issue of ranger stations, Basin.
So you brought it up.
Money.
because we were all there was a big $3 million check.
Over at the SBSC, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's
we all saw it.
Soccer field.
If you can't run that through the ATM to make your deposit.
Brad Sherman King and.
Brad Sherman and the director and the mayor and.
I can get you the names of the other, I think, is it Matthew Rudnick?
Matt
Yeah,
Rudnick was
whatever
there.
you can.
Okay, there were
Yeah.
several people there.
Oh, okay.
Matt was there.
Get it to me and I will follow up on
The
this.
meeting that we had, where decision came out, because I don't expect Jim Kim would know it. But there were people there, from the budget to the Brecken Parks.
Okay. And, you know, then there's always the question, can ranger patrols be increased? They don't have the money, they don't have the rangers, and, you know, the RAP funding is an issue, going back to Villaraigosa's administration. When he started charging an admin fee to Brecken Parks, it's basically hamstrung them. They've taken over $1 billion in admin fees out of Brecken Parks. They did the same thing to libraries, and they were closing right and left, and there was a measure passed to restore the funding for libraries that was never done for Brecken Parks. So I honestly don't know why proposals haven't been made to fix this, but I guess we'll just have to wonder. And moving ahead, I think Rosie is still here. The Sepulveda Basin website, Rosie, I think Audubon may have put a comment in. What's the status of that? It's, let's see.
So I have to check with Lamont from our team. He's been monitoring it closely. And it actually, a lot of it was his idea. So I'll follow up with him. He hasn't reached out to me to give me any updates yet, but I'll definitely check in with our team and then I can give you an update via email once I get that.
Okay, that's great, and I would encourage all of our member groups to write in support of that. Then the councilwoman has a motion for invasives removal and replacement with natives. I know that we haven't weighed in on that yet. I think that is, after reading that motion, I think that there are some things we'd want to discuss about it. But I'm very happy that the councilwoman came up with that. Greg, have you read that?
I did read it. I couldn't tell you what it said there right now. It's been a while since I read it.
And it's getting late.
I know where there's some non-natives that can move. I said, I know where there's some non-natives.
We know, yes, I did go for a walk with the council member and some of her staff. And I was pointing out the cornucopia of toxic and non-native treasures over by Bull Creek. And I think she was a little horrified by it. But
Which council member are you talking about?
Padilla.
Oh, okay.
So anyhow, Rosie, if there's been any progress on that, any further discussion, it'd be great. If there's anything that we can do to help move it along, let us know.
Absolutely. I can include that in the email as well. Once I check in with the ledge team. So I'll follow up with that.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And I appreciate the council members' attention to this. Upcoming master plan revision. Oh, I'm sorry. Did we have any comments on either of those items? No, I'm sorry. I'm just kind of bowling ahead here. master plan revision, I believe the date for comment will be March 25th or maybe March 27th, something like that. Should we convene a special meeting next month to discuss that, or should we form a subcommittee to review the master plan revisions that are desired? And I will put that before the group here.
What are those revisions?
They're doing a revised master plan.
So we don't know what the revisions are yet?
Are they extensive, like wholesale revision?
Yeah, it's a complete revision of the master plan. Now, they might not change anything, but I think that it behooves us to take a look at it. And you know, it involves land use classifications. You know,
Are we? So I know remind me, I think John is still on the call.
he is.
Okay.
Yes.
So I know we had all the stakeholders, we have that, so are you saying it's now, is there not a workshop? I guess that's my question. So are things just posted and now you're saying, should we have subcommittee review? There's not like an upcoming workshop we need to participate in?
John, is there a workshop coming up?
No, they're just gonna, yeah, it's just gonna be the open comment period. So at that time, we'll accept, any comments and recommendations for changes in the existing land use classifications, resource management, recreation management, water
So
resource.
this is not, the revised master plan is not posted for our input. This is a solicitation of comments to inform the revised master plan.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't drafted a revised master plan yet. That hasn't happened.
They're waiting for input to draft
Yes.
the revision.
Got it.
So when you said earlier that this was open for the scoping, is it the traditional scoping process? In other words, you're gonna put out, this is what we propose to do, and then we're giving comments on that scope. Is that?
No, it
No,
sounds like
this
they're
is before
just
that.
announcing that there is a process to revise the master plan and they're saying, is there anything they should look at? So it's even pre-scoping, it's sort of, so all that, yeah. So the question is, do we as a committee reviewing the older master plan have any initial thoughts prior to anything that the Army Corps has done or will do? Do we have thoughts about any of the land use classifications or areas that we want to submit as a full committee as opposed to as individuals?
Right.
And then
Josh, could you just clarify what you meant? Could you clarify what you spoke earlier? Because I wrote down notice of intent. And I didn't realize that from what you were saying is that there were specifics associated with the notice of intent.
Yeah, so the notice of intent is just the start of the public scoping or the public comment period, if you want to call it. Our Fort Worth district calls it the scoping period. We usually call it the public comment period, but it is just, it's like Nurit said, it's looking at the existing master plan, which we provide a link to it, and just submitting what changes you would like to see from the existing master plan in the revised master plan.
And I do think from prior conversations that there were some thoughts we had, particularly around which areas are designated environmentally sensitive and some of the species that were not documented previously, if I recall. And
There's
some changes
definitely-
around the South Reserve. So, yeah, I think a subcommittee might be a good idea for that unless people want to try and gather the full committee.
If I can pipe up just briefly, this I think will be the perfect time to try to get it clarified that the amphitheater and lawn are part of the wildlife reserve, although dual purpose in use.
Hey, John, the question I had with this, given the restrictions that y'all have with communicating this, does it prohibit you from emailing us the master plan? And us, the Fed restrictions to stop communications?
No,
Well,
we
have them.
it's accessible.
So,
Yeah, it's on our website.
so,
We
so,
have them.
so, but then if that moratorium, or if that restriction isn't lifted, will the dates for this still shift? Or are your dates fixed for when you're gonna execute it? So in other words, if the moratorium on communications don't get lifted, will you go on ahead with what you're gonna do despite getting inputs, or does this push your project downstream?
Well, right now they just said 10 days and that was effective January 25th. So, we're looking at February 4th, it's lifted. And that's when we were planning to send out, I'll go through the stakeholders list and it'll be by email. And there'll be the links to the master plan, but I guess you already have that. And then the links to submitting comments. But it's
So
all
I
it's
guess
all
my
in the
question-
letter. So there's a letter that's going to go out. It's a form
So I
letter.
guess my question, I'm asking you to predict the future, I know, but so if that February 10th date comes and goes and they say add another 10 days or add another 20 days, does that shift this period? Will it just keep moving with that communication window?
It could, yeah, it could shift. I mean, if something changes where, we can't open the public comment period on time, and that's something I'm going to have to talk with Rhonda Fields and her team. They're out of Fort Worth, and I mean, we just had a meeting today, and this actually came up after our meeting, but so I had every intent. I was ready to hit send and send out the notices, and then this, I was made aware of this suspension of public postings. So my supervisor said, hold off, and Rhonda concurred. But since it was just 10 days, if nothing else changes, and Rhonda didn't say anything about shifting the date of the comment period, because we already sent out the tribal notifications last week, and they had the dates as February 10th through the 25th, which, like I said, we're going to extend to the 27th.
Okay. March, good.
Of
So,
March, right?
so for the committee then, if we did do a special meeting, that would be Tuesday, the 25th, which would be before this 27th deadline. So,
The deadline's the 27th of March.
oh, March. Oh, great. Okay, well. I was gonna suggest, maybe we should have a subcommittee that develops something that then the committee meets to review and discuss. I
That
think
would be good.
would be good.
Okay, who would like to be on a subcommittee? I would certainly want to. I have seen things that I think should be.
I'd be open to, I'm going to though request.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Or volunteer, no, I was gonna say, Dan, if you're up for it, I think you need to be in
Yeah.
terms of knowledge of special species, et cetera, and RCD's jurisdiction here.
So Dan would volunteer,
Yeah, I'll volunteer with you, Pat.
okay,
I'll sit on it, I mean,
and Greg.
Okay, why don't we do Greg, Pat, and Dan?
Okay, so we have a subcommittee.
Would it be on Zoom or in person?
Special meeting.
Well, the special meeting,
Oh, no, I meant the
the
subcommittee.
subcommittee, probably Zoom.
Probably Zoom or email, just.
I think
Unless
it'd be,
there's site visits.
we'd have a bunch.
But
of
it has to be
emails.
less than 5 people or it's not. a
I
subcommittee.
suggest that you call it an ad hoc meeting,
Mhm.
that will allow you that option. If you decide you want to Zoom.
Okay, we'll
Yeah.
call it an ad
Ad
hoc
hoc
committee.
subcommittee, not a standing subcommittee.
Okay, do we need to take a vote on creating that or?
And so then should we do, I don't think you need to vote on creating a committee. I think that's the purview of the president.
Okay. I've created a
We don't have
committee.
bylaws, so my recommendation is we do it just to be safe.
Does anyone
Because
object
you're
to?
going to possibly, if you exercise the ad hoc exemption in the Brown Act,
Yeah,
it'd be better to have some.
have it on record, sure.
Okay, so
Any objections to an ad hoc committee on the Army Corps Master Plan?
I am hearing none.
Great.
Okay. So we will revisit that.
Okay, so then do we want to do then a special meeting on February 25th? Do you think you guys could have something together for us by then?
Sure, I think so.
Otherwise, well,
February.
so the next formal meeting of this body would be March 25th, which is still before the deadline.
Yeah.
So you could develop something, share it for review, and we could discuss and vote on it on the 25th.
Yeah, as long
That's
as,
fine.
as long as, I was afraid with the deadline expiring the 25th, and maybe it has to go to Washington, and there's a time difference, so we
Right.
don't get it in on time.
But since it's the 27th, I think maybe we don't.
Okay, I think we can do that, so let's.
Why don't we keep the option open to have a February meeting though? Huh?
Might be better to have a February meeting, just an ad hoc meeting where we could discuss.
A special meeting.
A special meeting in case there's
For the March 25th meeting.
changes.
Okay, well then, so
Okay.
February 25th, at least a tentative special meeting.
Okay, so
That might especially be helpful because then people can take what transpires back to their organizations who may want to amplify it onto the Army Corps for their own organization.
Sure.
That's good.
Okay, so ideally, the ad hoc committee will meet prior to the February 25th meeting and have something to share.
That's great. We will do that.
Great.
Okay, I'm realizing, so we're almost to the end. I realized I made a boo-boo. I think when the owl decided not to work, I got distracted. We didn't ask for reports from member organizations, so why don't we do that and then look at the last item and then we can adjourn, so. Who do we want to start with? Let's see.
Put down the list.
Yes, let me find the list here, hold on. I cut my thumb today and I can't turn pages or anything. California native plant.
I will just catch up real quick. We've pretty much put a halt on planting in December before the holidays, and then between illnesses, droughts, and lack of rains, we haven't put anything in the ground. We're gonna put plants in the ground this week. We are at 190 plants for this season so far. The biggest attrition has been from stuff eating it underground. So stuff on top has made it. And so we'll probably 10 plants this weekend. Let's say forestry has been really helpful, and I'll throw to Folar, who's been really a great boon to our work too, so.
Thank you. So from Polar one, just noting that we secured our right of entry for the rest of the year, which is very exciting. We also do habitat restorations beyond those Saturdays where we need the right of entry, when we sometimes bring students to the basin and they engage in restoration, pulling out invasives with native plants and Audubon folks. In those cases, we do not need an official right of entry, but we do notify Record Park of our being there, just to make sure that we're on the up and up. So that's been happening. Let's see here. We had a wonderful restoration on Saturday. We're seeing a huge uptick in interest with our restorations. So we had 175 attendees, 372 invasive bags were filled, which is really exciting. And there is an interest being floated around in Polar possibly helping get volunteers out other Saturdays of the month. Maybe not to the level of our big habitat restoration day, but just so that we get more boots on the ground helping with the efforts, especially in pulling up those invasives. So, yeah.
And then next, LA Audubon.
No reports at this time.
RCD.
Nothing at this time.
San Fernando Valley Audubon. We're gonna have some programming coming up, a joint thing with Shift Our Waste Collective and Santa Monica Mountains Fund. One will be how to use native plants in food, hopefully not hemlock, but, and then a four class training session on milkweed. And then we're going to ask people to volunteer in planting milkweed after that. And also, we will be taking a vote on it at a board meeting this coming Friday. But, San Fernando Valley Audubon is probably going to make a grant to LAFD Station 88 to acquire an additional brush patrol, skid unit, which is like a mini mobile fire truck and a pickup truck. And they have one unit now, that is just beat to death. And these units are crucially important for putting small fires into small fires and keeping them that way. So we're, we're very appreciative of the hard work they've done to really save our wildlife reserve. At least the 50% that hasn't burned yet.
Yeah, those are the guys who it makes it really more accessible.
Yes.
And they utilize that.
They can get in there right away with that four-wheel drive pickup truck with 200 gallons, high pressure hose. And, we have had fires starting in the damnedest places, so.
Hey, Pat, I do have a small update. I forgot it's not a project, but we submitted a large grant to CAL FIRE to try to implement that shallow water inundation project we talked about. So it's a very, very, very long shot that we'll get it. It was an incomplete application and everything, but we had like a 5-day turnaround to get it in, and we just decided to go for it. It'll be available next year, and so more lead time will bring more people in.
Great, thank you, and moving right along. We don't have, Angela's chapter Sierra Club.
I know the Angeles chapter is having its meeting this coming Sunday, and I believe that will be in person and online virtually. Additionally, next month in February, we're gonna be having a regular meeting. We're also gonna be having a retreat that morning. So usually the board meeting for the Angeles chapter happens at 1. In February, we're gonna be having a retreat happening in the morning beforehand. So that February meeting is gonna be a busy day, all day. But then this coming Sunday is just meeting in the afternoon.
Thank you. Sierra Club San Fernando Valley, Teresa.
Well, I guess if we could mention that we had our first in-person meeting as a group this last week.
Wow.
About a week ago. Glenn was there and Joe.
All right.
So, yeah.
Great.
A lot of people.
After COVID, it's 20 people or so.
Our speaker was the Angeles chapter's executive director.
Oh, that's great.
He talked about some of the big projects that he's got going on, and reasons to justify everything that we're doing collectively, not just in Sierra Club, but everybody. So we're all fighting the same fight.
Okay. Melanie is on the Zoom if there's anything happening with River Project.
I've got nothing to report at the moment.
Thank you. Okay, so back, diverting back to the last. Huh?
Non-voting member.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Allison,
I did, and you're NC now, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, yes. So the neighborhood councils, most of them, every 2 years have elections, so starting on Friday, candidate filing starts for, this region, which is Region 3 Southwest Valley, runs for 45 days, anyone who's, lives, works, owns, business, property owner, or community stakeholder, not just for Encino, but for the others that can file as a candidate. Given the Encino's near miss of what happened to Pacific Palisades and Mandeville Canyon, Brentwood, whatever, there is absolutely, I think, heightened awareness all around, including the Sepulveda Basin hearing. So that may draw some additional things, council files, and I know there was a whole slew of them introduced. I'm looking through to see which ones may be applicable. There was one about closing parks, but I think it's only in height. fire.
Mhm,
zones. Um. So that's why I asked that question. I guess I'll leave it. Oh, we are planning to do an Encino Day event in April. And they are looking for exhibitors of people who do things in Encino, so it might be good to have some entity who may be interested, who carries forward what's going on in the basin there.
Mhm.
It's gonna be in Encino Park is the plan, so I'll have more details.
Okay. Thank you, Glenn. And we don't have anyone from Lake Balboa here, I don't think. Okay, Rosie already talked about the comprehensive homeless count. We are really indebted to, the county supervisor for finally listening to us after, I think 5 years of doing our own counts in there. When Lassa couldn't come up with numbers that were even close to reasonable. The last item on the agenda, would be for John, I think. And does, the Army Corps anticipate, and Greg, this was your question. And I think we've already touched on that, future obstacles or changes we might see given the change of administration, and we've already got a 10-day suspension of things, but would there be any?
Yeah, I think just the question was sort of broad-based and came out of a conversation over the weekend before a lot of the stuff happened this week, a lot of the things that dropped. And I guess just, again, asking you to predict the future, I guess, in whatever chatter or buzz is, change in funding, change in zoning, things like that.
No, I don't have anything to share. We're just kind of, at this point, just kind of waiting to see, what happens next. But right now, we don't have any significant changes, as far as the way we do things. Our maintenance activities, right now are just, plan to continue. We are considered, because of our role, as far as we are considered a public safety organization, and so we're exempt from some of the, for example, the hiring freeze that affects a lot of federal agencies. We're exempt from that, so we can still continue to hire. So we're fortunate in that sense, being a part of the Department of Defense. So a lot of things that affect some of the other federal agencies, might not affect us. We're hoping that they don't, and some will, of course. But beyond that, I don't have anything. There's nothing that, I mean, we're just, coming to work every day and doing the same job. And we don't anticipate that changing, but if anything does change, I'll still be, Hannah and I will attend the meetings and we'll keep you apprised of, what happens next. It's all pretty new right now for us, so I'm sure there's more to come.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, I think that said, we can adjourn 10 minutes early. I would like to thank everyone for attending, especially our government representatives. Thank you very much.
Thanks to the owl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think other than the minor glitch with the owl, I think it's worked very well.
I agree.
The
And-
owl will be great. The glitch was due to me accidentally unplugging it.
Oh,
when I was moving plugs around.
Ah.
You're still vital too.
So I was the glitch.
Okay, so the owl works good, but if we want to do a presentation, I have a projector and I can plug it in and I can do projections and everything, so.
It's pretty neat. I like how so the way that it renders in Zoom is actually kind of neat. too.
It's kind of,
The way
I
that
can't wait to
it
see
has
the
like
recording.
multi-panels of-
Yeah,
of
take a
all-
look.
all the people.
See,
And it
it's got it,
follows-
and you can maximize this, so it shows everybody, and it does 360 degrees. So if you get in just the right place, you can have yourself split into two pieces on two sides.
Right.
See, there you go, so there's the whole thing there. And what it does is it ramps whoever's talking and puts them in the frame.
And it was working during that?
It,
Yeah.
it worked fine, other than when the read.
Or the glitch, yes.
I couldn't figure out because it was.
And Pat, you're handling any like recording, sending to Steve, to post and blah, blah, blah.
I will, I'll send it over. I put the recordings on YouTube because,
Okay, yeah, that'll be great.
yeah, I put it on YouTube and send them over to him.
Okay. perfect.
Thanks, everyone.
Did we,
Thank
and we
you.
created a YouTube for the committee?
I don't know, I'll find out. If we didn't, we should.
Okay, yeah, if not, I can set up an account. I think we talked about it and then I can't remember if we did it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyhow, let's get this puppy shut down.
Yes.
I've got it.
Plugging things from.
Wait.